What's up again, everybody? Let's review some more Justice cards. Before we do, though, let's take a step back to Aquaman saving the 7 Seas. In the previous video, I mentioned that sidekicks don't count for this ability. That was completely wrong. I apologize. I don't know where I got off saying that or thinking that. My brain was clearly mixed up. Sidekicks can be used to trigger this effect, gaining 2 life for each sidekick that you move to used. So with that understanding, I would change this from a D- to a D+, maybe even a C-. All right, let's move on to some more cards. This is Brainiac, enemy of every living thing, a 5-cost mask character with that Legion of Doom and villain combo affiliation thing, a 1/2/4 2/3/5 3/4/7 stat line. This ability reads, when Brainiac is KO'd, reroll target non-villain character die. If it rolls an energy phase, place it in the used pile. Otherwise, leave it in the field zone at its original level. So the ability is solid enough, but it's both on a 5-drop and it's a card with naturally high defense, meaning it doesn't KO easily or naturally when attacking or blocking. Because of those reasons, it's just not effective enough to consider running in a higher level competition. Compare this to the 5-cost Malignant Plaguecaster, which is a when fielded effect and not a when KO'd effect, which has a better defense for cycling to trigger that when fielded effect. That does essentially the same thing, except the Brainiac allows you to put it back on the original level rather than on a level that was rolled like Malignant Plaguecaster does. When you look at that comparison, you can see that Malignant Plaguecaster is just a slightly better ability. So I give this a D+. The other Brainiac is Brainiac Get Inside Your Head, another 5-cost variant, same stat line obviously, same affiliations. While Brainiac is active, only one opposing character die of each affiliation may attack each turn. This one has a lot more utility than the previous card. This works well in set against both villains and Justice League characters, as well as out of set against teams that revolve around affiliations, of which villains have been popular for a while, but you can even use this against somebody playing out of the Warhammer box, or even the upcoming X-Men box. Keep an eye on the meta as people play online tournaments and just what you play in person. If there's a lot of single affiliation teams, or just a lot of powerful single affiliation cards on the same team, then this is a great control piece to pick up and purchase. I give it a C+. All right, moving on to Clayface. This is Clayface Matthew Hagen. This is a 6-drop mask character. The double villain affiliation is what I'm going to call that. The 032153175 stat line. And it says when Clayface attacks, he may use the when attacks ability of any other active character die. Rating this card requires us to look back almost 2 years to the Maximum Carnage team pack and this Carnage card that had the exact same ability. That was on a 5-drop with the villain affiliation. This card also saw no competitive or semi-competitive play. This Clayface cost 1 more, has a slightly better top side, and an extra affiliation. Those do not make up for the fact that there are just better cards in this set. It's playable and there are things that you could copy with this, but there are better cards to spend your 6 energy on, so this is a D. Okay, Clayface Restless Time, 6-drop. Mask character, stat line, affiliations, nobody cares. Ability, pretty cool. While you have a Bolt, Fist, Mask, Shield energy in your reserve pool, Clayface gets +5/+5 and Overcrush. But here's why we're here. The global is pay 1 mask, and once per turn you can take a die from your used pile and add it to your reserve pool on any energy face. Now we're talking. First, let's talk about the main ability. This is a cool casual win condition that I would want to mess around with. It isn't great, as getting those various energy types is a challenge without sacrificing team slots for like multiple fixers, but still it would definitely do some work if you managed to land it. If this card were just the ability, then I'd give it like a C- as it's powerful enough to justify the 6 cost, but difficult to make work. However, we must consider this global, because this is one of the best globals in Modern. This is a ramp global, it's an energy fixer, it's a bag manager, sort of all rolled into one. This is one of those globals that could be considered on just about every team, and while it doesn't need to be on all of those teams, it is so powerful that you need to know how to make use of it just in case your opponent brings it. This global pushes this card into the B+ range. And the final Clayface is Clayface Treasure Hunter, another 6-cost mask. When a global ability or action die increases the attack or defense of an opposing character die, Clayface gets +1/+1. This is another fun casual win condition. If you can give this Overcrush and then use a global to pump up your opponent's dice, you can get that 5/3 or 7/5 side pretty huge. That being said, it's kind of slow. You need a way to give Overcrush to your Clayface, and you need to buy the actual Clayface, and then you actually have to bring something that buffs your opponent's either attack or defense. One idea to give this some serious buffs is to use the global on Primaris generous aggressor, pay 2 fists, give everything in the field +1 attack. In doing so, whatever number of dice your opponent have, get that ability, and then you get the buff on Clayface using both the aggressor global and also his ability. If you've given him Overcrush, then you can push for a ton of damage. I'll give this a flat C. On to Gorilla Grodds, Scientific Genius, a 6-cost fist character with that double villain affiliation, a 144166277 stat line, and he says while Gorilla Grodd is active, when a character die attacks or blocks, deal 2 damage to it. While Gorilla Grodd is active, at least 1 character die must attack each turn. This card is so weird and awesome. It's such a great anti-aggro tool if you're up against a bunch of small attackers. It stops unblockable things like Yuan-Ti Pureblood on 2 sides, and both Poxwalker and Ant-Man on every side. It forces both you and your opponent to push with something each turn. If you don't have a sidekick to push with on your end, then you have to attack with Grodd, but he always survives the 2 damage ping that he deals himself, and at least he's very huge body just coming at your opponent. They have to decide whether or not they want to let it through or block. This is an example of a symmetric effect that benefits the controller more than the opponent, as you can set up your team and your buy order to make use of this more than your opponent can. All of that being said, this is a 6-drop that doesn't necessarily win you the game, so with that in mind, I'm giving this a C+. If you are up against a bunch of little guys, or there's just aggro all over the place wherever you're playing, then this is something to consider. The next Gorilla Grodd is stronger than you. It's a 6 cost as well. It has both Strike, which is the +2/+2 and Overcrush keyword, so long as it's the only character that was fielded during the turn, as well as Call Out, which if you don't know Call Out, it's the one where if you attack with that die, it gets to select a die on your opponent's side that must block it, and it's the only one that can block it. They just fight each other. So these 2 abilities work against each other a lot. So let's say you buy this for 6, or even like net 5 with a global like Kree Captain. Or let's get even crazier and get it for net 4 with like Kree Captain and the Ring of Winter global. Cool, we bought it for 4. Then you get this fielded, you get the Strike to activate, you push and you call out a sidekick. Let's even say that he's on his top side, so he's a 7/7. You get to push 6 damage and keep your 7/7 in the field thanks to the Overcrush. That is awesome. But then Strike goes away at the end of the turn, and then it will never come back. You're going to need to remove this yourself with some sort of a global that KOs your stuff in order to actually get that interaction to trigger again. Yes, you could just also push with this die and keep calling things out you want to remove, and that is good. But is that good enough for a 6-drop? For me, it's good enough for exactly a C rating. And the final Gorilla Grodd is You Can't Fight Me, also 6-drop, says while Gorilla Grodd is active, all character dice must attack each turn if able, and your character dice get +1 attack while attacking. So here we have what is essentially the opposite of the Scientific Genius Grodd. This one provides a symmetrical drawback in that all dice must attack each turn, but you gain a slight benefit in that yours get the +1 attack buff. It's like the aggro foil to the Control Grodd. Is this worth dropping 6 on though? In higher level play, probably not, but in casual and limited formats, it would be powerful enough to see play. Do note that this does act as removal for control pieces unless your opponent like brings blink globals, so it works well in that scenario as well. It also forces your control pieces to attack as well, so bringing control onto a team with this doesn't make much sense. Hence why this is more of an aggro card. I give it a C+. Let's move on to Green Lantern Fearless. Green Lantern is a 5-cost mask character with the Justice League affiliation, a 142-153-165 stat line, and an ability that reads, when Green Lantern attacks, you may spend a mask, and if you do, deal 1 damage to the defending player for each action die in your used pile. Let's use some range analysis to see how good this card is. Let's assume that you've put this onto your team and have built around it accordingly, allocating some useful action dice that you plan to purchase. If you have, worst case scenario, 1 action die in your used, then this text is essentially, when attacks, pay 1 to deal 1 to your opponent. Best case scenario is to somehow have like 5 action dice in used. Then this becomes pay 1 when you attack with it to deal 5 to your opponent. Now that's a good card ability, but one that takes a whole lot of monetary and time investment to get the best case scenario out of. So if we split the difference and say that this card consistently deals 2 damage when attacking, then it's a 5-drop that deals 2 to the opponent for a mask, and that's a bit on the weak side. Yes, you could discount this. Yes, you could then buy several of them and use the effect a few times, paying a mask for each one that attacks. Do I think that's super competitive? No. It could make for a fun fun team though. I may give this a whirl myself. I'll give it a C-. And now on to one of the more powerful cards in the set, Green Lantern Human, 5 cost mask as well, same stat line and affiliation. It says while Green Lantern is active, your Justice League character dice gain. When this character die attacks, deal 1 damage to target player for each energy symbol in your reserve pool that matches this character die's energy type. And then question marks obviously don't count. Yeah, this card is really good. It's a solid semi-competitive win condition that doesn't really require many cards to make it work. Add on a single low drop Justice League affiliated character and a blink global and a touch of ramp and you're good to go. This card ability was one of the best in the game a few years ago. It has been balanced now by putting it onto a body and making it thematic with Justice League characters, but it is still really strong. I give this card a solid B+. And the last of the Green Lanterns is a 6 cost. This is Ring from Abensur. It's got the keyword attune and it says when fielded you may purchase an action die for 1 less and place it in your prep area. So I'm sorry to say that this is the worst of the 3 Green Lantern variants. We've historically seen that high cost attune characters don't make the cut. We've also historically seen that these middling power level when fielded effects on high drop characters don't make the cut. Packaging both of those abilities together does help improve in general, but not enough to consider this for anything more than limited or theme type of play. This is a D+. So there's another batch of card reviews. Let me know what you think about each of these cards. Out of the 11 cards that I've shown you today, which is your favorite and which do you most enjoy playing with? Let me know in a comment below, and as always, thanks for watching.